The jungle was alive with the sounds of distant machines and roaring beasts. Above the tall canopy, 2 suns burned low, casting long green shadows across the battlefield. Smoke rose from crashed ships and broken droids, their metal parts still twitching from short circuits. The air smelled of sap, blood, and melted plastic. Derek crouched behind a thick root, clutching his sidearm close to his chest. He wasn't supposed to be here. The mission was a simple relay, drop a quick in and out. But the planet was a trap, and now every human in his squad was either dead or missing. He was alone in hostile territory, surrounded by creatures he didn't understand. He could hear them, fast feet brushing through the moss, clicking claws climbing the trees, and guttural voices speaking a language filled with snarls and growls. They were tracking him. He had 2 options, run blind or stand still and wait to die. Neither sounded good. He moved, low and fast. Through twisted vines and between glowing plants, his boots sank into wet ground. Something howled behind him. His heart raced. He didn't dare stop. The sound of something large crashing through the underbrush grew louder. Then, a blur struck him from the side. He hit the dirt hard and rolled over, pointing his weapon. But the creature didn't attack. She was tall, covered in sleek dark fur, and her eyes burned gold like fire. Her armor was tight and worn, fitted with belts and blades. Her hand clamped over his mouth before he could scream. She was not a beast, she was something in between. A Beastwoman. Her voice was sharp and low. "If you want to live, be silent." He nodded, heart pounding. She pulled him up with ease and dragged him behind a curtain of moss. There, they hid in silence as a hunter drone flew overhead. Its red light scanned the forest below, missing them by inches. Once it passed, she finally let him go. He backed away, unsure if she was enemy or ally. She stared at him, sizing him up with an expression he couldn't read. Then she spoke again, slowly but clear. "You're too loud, too bright. They'll find you, take it off. All of it." Derek blinked. "What?" She pointed to his gear, his jacket, his vest. "The colors. The smell. You stink of iron and plastic. You'll glow to them. Strip. Now." He hesitated, but the look in her eyes said she wasn't joking. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked like a soldier. A wild, commanding one. He started taking off his jacket, watching her carefully. She knelt beside him and opened a pouch. On her belt, she pulled out a black, oily paste that shimmered strangely in the jungle light. "This will hide you from their vision, from their scent. You don't want to know what happens if they catch you." He obeyed. As she smeared the paste across his chest and arms, he flinched at how cold it was. Her hands moved fast, skilled, and careful. "Your people landed in the worst place," she muttered. "This forest doesn't forgive humans. You walk too proud. You smell too clean, and you're loud." "So loud, why are you helping me?" he asked. She paused for a second, then leaned close. "Because I owe a favor, not to you, but to someone like you, long ago." That was all she said. Then she moved again, brushing his shoulders with the strange mix that blended with his skin like living shadow. Something moved outside their cover. She pushed him down and lay on top of him, blending them into the underbrush. Her breath was steady, while his was wild and panicked. The hunter stepped into view, a massive beast with sensors and blades for limbs. Its nostrils flared as it scanned the air. The beast sniffed, turned, and moved on. They didn't move until it was gone. Only then did she get off him and whisper, "You're lucky. They smell fear. They taste it too. You were almost dead." Derek sat up slowly, his voice shaking. "You really saved me." She didn't answer. Instead, she checked the blade on her back and turned toward the deeper forest. "They'll come again. You're not ready. But you'll follow me if you want to live. No talking, no lights, no whining." Without waiting for a reply, she began walking. Derek stared at her back, wild fur, scars, and power in every step. She moved like a hunter, like the jungle belonged to her. He didn't know who she was or what she wanted, but right now, she was all he had. He stood up and followed. Asterisk. The jungle got darker as they moved deeper. The air grew hotter, thicker, and full of strange insect sounds. Derek followed closely behind the Beastwoman, watching her every step. She moved like she knew every inch of the land. Her ears twitched at distant sounds, her claws ready at her. Sides, he didn't know her name. She hadn't offered it. She didn't ask for his either. She walked in silence, only pausing to sniff the air or listen to the forest. Sometimes she crouched, sometimes she climbed low branches without making a sound. She was survival in motion. Derek stumbled on a root and cursed under his breath. She turned back sharply and hissed, "Silence! They are near." He froze, gripping the belt she gave him. It held a blade, a pouch of black paste, and nothing else. His communicator was fried. His tech meant nothing here. They reached a narrow trench, hidden under thorny vines. She lifted the vines carefully and motioned for him to drop down. He obeyed without question. The trench smelled of earth and wet stone. He crouched inside, back against the wall. As she slipped in beside him, voices echoed above, deep, distorted voices not human. The language was sharp and broken. Heavy footsteps thudded across the jungle floor. Derek looked up through the thorns. But she placed her hand over his eyes. "Don't stare at them. They see back," she whispered. Her voice was calm but cold. The sound of hunters grew louder, then quieter. After a long moment, the forest was still again. She slowly removed her hand and checked outside the trench. "We keep moving," she said. He followed again, trying not to think, just react. Just survive. His boots stayed low to the ground. His breathing slowed. He was starting to move like her, just a little. They passed a nest of glowing worms, curled around each other like hot cables. The Beastwoman paused, knelt, and rubbed some of the glowing mud on his neck. "It kills your scent. Only lasts a day." He didn't argue. He just let her do it. Her hands were rough, but steady. He watched her face while she worked. Her skin was dark and marked with faded battle paint. Her hair was thick, wild, full of feathers and bones. Her armor was scratched but strong. She didn't smile. She didn't blink much. But she was always aware of everything. Finally, she sat across from him under a thick root canopy. "You were part of the drop team. Your people made noise in the sky. They burned part of the forest. That's why the hunters came." Derek nodded, shame rising in his chest. "It was just a recon drop," he said. "To you," she replied. "To them, it was invasion." She looked around and drew a line in the dirt with her claw. "You crossed it, the blood border. No creature that crosses lives long. But you somehow, you're still breathing. Because of you," he said. She ignored that and began sharpening a blade. Her claws scraped stone with practiced rhythm. "The blood moon is close. That's why they're active. They hunt during this time, not for food, for pride, for fun." He looked down at his chest, still smeared with paste and glowing mud. "Why help me at all?" She paused, then spoke. "Without looking at him. Once, a human gave me food. When I was caged, when I was bleeding, he didn't speak. He just gave and walked away. I never forgot." Derek stayed silent. The story hung in the air like mist. She stood again and looked to the west. "The safe caves are near. If you reach them, you live. If not, they'll tear your heart out while it beats. Choose fast." She started walking again. This time, she didn't look back to check if he followed. She didn't need to. He was already moving. Through thick vines, under fallen trees, and past growling creatures in the dark. They pushed forward. Derek's hands were cut and bleeding, his legs shaking, but he didn't stop. Every breath in the jungle felt like a countdown. Then they reached a ridge. She dropped to the ground and pulled him down with her. Below, a hunter pack moved through the trees. Metal armor gleamed under the moons. One of them carried a human. Helmet in its clawed hand, Derek stared, swallowing hard. She looked at him and whispered, "We move when they pass. One mistake and you die. No tech, no prayers, just instinct." He nodded. She placed her hand on his chest, grounding him. "Breathe. Like the jungle, don't be human now. Be nothing. Be shadow." The hunters moved closer. The hunter pack moved slowly through the trees. Their bodies shimmered with scales and armor plates. Their weapons looked part metal, part bone. Derek watched one sniff the air, tilt its head, then move on. He didn't dare blink. Beside him, the Beastwoman barely breathed. Her arm rested across his chest, keeping him low. Her fur brushed his skin, and her claws stayed inches from her blade. She was ready to strike if needed, but her first move was always silence. The hunters passed below. They didn't see them. They didn't smell them. The paste worked. The mud worked, and her instincts saved him again. But they weren't safe yet. Not even close. As soon as the last hunter disappeared into the trees, she pushed up and moved fast. "They'll circle back. We have minutes." Derek followed without a word, lungs tight, body tired, but heart still burning with fear. They ran across mossy ground and down a slope that opened into a narrow canyon. The trees thinned, and strange vines glowed blue from the rock walls. Insects scattered as they passed. The air was colder here, and the sounds were fewer. "There's a place here," she said. "A split in the rock. Few know of it. We'll rest there." Her voice was sharp, but not unkind. Derek trusted her now more than any soldier he'd served with. She hadn't abandoned him once. They reached the rock face. She knelt and pulled aside hanging roots, revealing a crack just wide enough to slide through. She entered first, motioning him to follow. Inside was dark, cool, and dry. It felt like a hidden world untouched by war. Derek collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. She sat across from him, watching him with narrowed eyes. "You move better now," she said. "Still too noisy. Still too soft. But not useless. Thanks." He muttered. It was the first time in days he felt safe. For now, he looked around the cave, noticing the marks on the wall, scratches, symbols, and what looked like claw etchings. "This place, it's yours?" he asked. She nodded. "It was once a hunting den, my den, before they came. Before they poisoned the trees and burned the eggs." Her voice lowered with anger, but her face stayed calm. "Your kind doesn't see what it destroys. But at least you ran." "That's something." Derek sat up straighter. "I didn't want this war. I was just a tech runner. I fix radios. I wasn't even armed when we landed." She looked at him without blinking. "It doesn't matter. This world doesn't care what you wanted. It only answers blood with blood." Silence filled the cave for a while. The jungle beyond was quiet too. The sound of dripping water echoed softly in the space. Derek felt his heartbeat slowing, but his mind still raced. "What happens if we make it to the safe caves?" he asked. "You leave," she said. "You get off this world. You forget this place. You live." She stood up and checked the entrance. "But I stay. My war isn't finished. My pack is still out there. Maybe dead, maybe hunted. But I don't run from them." He watched her shadow move across the cave. Her body was built like a weapon, but something in her voice hinted at deep wounds, ones he couldn't see. "What if I want to help?" he said. She stopped. Her back turned. Her voice came low. "Then you die. You won't last another cycle. You're human. This forest eats humans." He stood slowly. "I'm not asking to fight your battles. I just don't want to walk away and pretend I saw nothing." She turned to face him. The fire in her eyes softened, just a little. "You talk too much," she said. He smiled. She didn't, but she didn't look angry either. She walked past him and sat again, pulling out a small tool from her belt. It looked like a carved stone with a light crystal inside. "You need sleep. I'll keep watch. Eat this first." She tossed him a fruit-like pod. It was warm and soft. He bit it, and it tasted bitter at first, then sweet. It filled his stomach quickly. She didn't eat. She just sat still, listening to the wind outside. He lay down against the cool cave floor. His mind swirled with questions, but his eyes closed faster than expected. In the last seconds before sleep, he felt her shadow pass over him, making sure. He was covered and hidden. Even in rest, she was guarding him. Derek woke to the sound of a growl outside the cave. It was low, rough, and too close. His eyes opened wide, and in the dim cave light, he saw her crouched at the entrance. Her claws were drawn, and her body was still as stone. She motioned to him with 2 fingers, silent and slow. He reached for the blade she gave him. His heart beat loud in his ears, but he didn't move too fast. She tilted her head, listening. Then the growl came again, deeper this time, and something large scraped against the stone outside. The hunter didn't rush in. It waited, watched, smelled the air. She didn't blink. She lowered her body and pressed one hand to the floor, feeling the vibration. Her whisper cut the silence. "It's not alone." 2 more. Derek swallowed and pressed his back against the far wall. She rose and made a sharp clicking sound in her throat. It echoed once, twice, then vanished. Outside, silence returned. The beasts had paused, maybe confused, maybe listening. Then a soft thump came from the roof of the cave. Dirt fell. A clawed hand grabbed the edge. Another hunter was climbing down from above. Her eyes narrowed. "They're smarter now. They've learned." She turned to Derek. "When I move, you run. Back through the trench. Left at the vine wall. There's a sinkhole. Hide in it." He wanted to argue, but she was already preparing. She poured the last of the glowing mud over her hands and face. Then she pounced. Like a blur of shadows, she jumped toward the cave roof. Her claws met the hunter's wrist mid-climb. The beast roared, and stone cracked under their weight. Derek scrambled out as more growls erupted behind him. He didn't look back. He ran through the trees, just as she said. He passed the trench, turned left. He didn't know how, but her words had carved a map into his brain. His feet moved where she told them to go. The vine wall appeared. He pushed through. Just beyond, a dip in the ground opened wide like a throat. The sinkhole was dark and deep. He jumped in and rolled to the bottom. His body scraped against roots and stone. Above him, the jungle screamed. Beasts roared, metal clashed. The sky lit with blue. Sparks. He didn't know who was winning. He didn't hear her voice anymore. Just noise. Loud, violent, endless noise that filled his chest with dread. He stayed low. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. He couldn't tell. At some point, the sounds faded. Nothing moved above, not even wind. Only when the light returned did he climb out, slow and shaking. Smoke drifted through the trees. Burnt plants and shattered bark marked the fight. Blood stained the ground red and black. Weapons were scattered. Bodies too. Beasts and drones lay still, broken in awful shapes. But she wasn't there. He searched carefully, staying low. Each step was quiet. Every noise made him flinch. He followed claw marks on tree trunks and dragged trails through mud. He found one hunter missing its head, another cut clean in half. And then he saw it, her necklace. The carved bone charm she always wore. It hung from a branch, stained and cracked. His chest tightened. He looked around for signs of her prints, blood, movement. But there was nothing more. He took the necklace and held it in his fist. It felt warm, heavy. like it didn't want to be left behind. He didn't call her name. He just stood in silence, letting the jungle speak. It said nothing. Then a shape moved behind him, fast, quiet. He spun, blade raised. But it was her. She limped out from behind the trees, one arm wrapped in vines. Her fur was burned on one side. Blood soaked her shoulder, but her eyes were still sharp. "Still alive. You followed well," she said. He rushed forward, ready to help, but she raised her hand. "I'm not broken. Just slower now." She took the necklace from his grip and tied it back around her neck like it had never left. "You fought them alone," he said. "You won, not all," she answered. "But enough to keep moving." They didn't speak after that. He helped her walk. Together they moved through the broken trail, deeper into the forest, where the safe caves were still waiting. They moved slower now. Each step was careful, calculated. Her arm bled through the makeshift wrap of vines, but she didn't complain. Derek stayed close, offering support when her legs shook. She didn't thank him. She didn't have to. The air had changed. The jungle was quieter here, but not peaceful. It felt like the trees were watching. Old stone markers began to appear, half-buried totems with beast symbols carved deep. Derek could tell they were close to something ancient. Almost there. She muttered, "This land remembers blood. If you lie, it knows. If you betray, it punishes." Her voice was calm, but her eyes kept scanning. The silence was not safety. It was warning. The forest opened into a circular clearing with moss-covered pillars and a flat stone in the center. Vines hung like curtains, and soft light poured in from gaps above. This was the safe place she spoke of. This was the caves. Door. She knelt near the stone and touched a carved pattern with her claw. The ground shook faintly, and a section of rock slid aside, revealing a hidden stairway descending into the earth. Derek stared in awe. "You live here?" he asked. She stood. "I was born here. Before war, before they hunted us. This place held my people. Now it holds ghosts." She stepped inside without fear. Derek followed, feeling the weight of every step press into his bones. The cave smelled of wet earth and stone dust. It was vast. Carvings lined the walls, scenes of beastskin. Standing with humans, fighting beside them, eating with them, then later, running from ships and machines. The story was all around them. "They never showed us this," Derek whispered. "We were told you were savages. That you attacked first." She laughed once dry, bitter. "That's how humans survive. Rewrite the story. Bury the guilt." Reached a small chamber lit by blue crystals. A pool shimmered in the center, steam rising gently. She sank to her knees beside it and began to clean her wounds. Derek knelt beside her and helped without asking. She let him. He used cloth from his shirt to stop the bleeding. She stayed silent, her eyes closed. The water hissed against her skin. But she didn't flinch. Her body was full of scars, some old, some new. Each one told a story he hadn't heard. When she finally opened her eyes, she looked at him differently, less guarded, more curious. "You don't act like them," she said. "You see, you listen. You bleed and still stay." "Why? I don't." "No," he answered. "Maybe because I finally see the truth. And I can't look away anymore." She stared at him for a long moment. Then she stood and walked toward the edge of the chamber. "You were part of this war. Now you've stepped out of it. That's dangerous. The jungle may forgive, but your people won't." "I'm not going back," he said. His voice was clear. "Not to lie. Not to forget. If I leave, it'll be to tell the truth. If I stay, it'll be to help." She walked to a side wall and pulled aside a layer of vines, revealing armor. It wasn't hers. It was human-made, old and dusty. "One helped us before. Long ago, he died here. But he died with honor. He chose the jungle over orders. Derek stepped closer and touched the armor. It had the same mark his unit wore. A faded patch. A forgotten name. She looked at him and nodded slowly. "That's why I saved you. You look like him. You move like him." The moment sat between them like stone, heavy, still. Then she said, "Sleep now. You'll need your strength. Morning brings new danger. If you wish to walk beside me, it won't be easy." Derek didn't ask what came next. He just laid down near the warmth of the crystals, his hand still stained with her blood. The cave hummed around him. It was a sound that didn't promise peace, but something better, truth. She sat beside him, her back to the wall, her blade across her lap. She didn't speak again. She didn't sleep. She watched the shadows and waited for morning. Derek awoke to the sound of dripping water and shifting stone. The cave was darker now, the blue crystal light dimmer than before. The air had changed again. He could feel it pressing on his chest like a warning. She was already standing, her hand on her blade, eyes locked on the tunnel entrance. "They followed," she said softly. "They found the scent. One of the bodies I left behind must have bled too close." Derek grabbed his knife and stood. He didn't shake this time. He felt different. Something in him had hardened. "How many?" he asked. "Too many for a fight." "Not enough for fear," she said. Her voice was cold but sharp. She stepped past him and placed her hand on the wall. "There's a second way out, but it's narrow. Only one at a time." The ground trembled again. Distant growls echoed through the stone. The hunters were inside. The ancient safe place was no longer safe. Derek felt heat rise in his throat. She looked at him and said, "You go first." "I cover. I'm faster in dark." "No," he said. "Not again. Not without you behind me." She didn't argue. She didn't smile. But she gave a small nod and led into the passage hidden behind the pool. They slipped inside, the walls tight and jagged. The passage twisted down, then turned sharply upward. At one point, he had to crawl through a section so narrow he could barely move. Behind him, she whispered instructions, guiding his steps through pitch-black stone. They emerged into open jungle again. This time, it was dawn. Mist floated over the ground. Trees stretched high like silent watchers. Birds scattered as the light touched them. It looked beautiful. But danger still breathed beneath it. She checked their surroundings quickly. Then she pointed to a distant ridge where stone structures peeked from the trees. "That's the old place. My kind built it before. Your kind ever flew stars. The hunters avoid it. Too many bones." Derek followed without question. His muscles ached, his legs dragged, but he moved. She was wounded, slower than before, but her steps never broke rhythm. Even limping, she was a hunter. They reached the base of the ruins just as a roar sounded behind them. The hunters had followed the tunnel. They were coming, fast. She turned and took her stance. Derek stepped beside her, raising the weapon she gave him. "You don't have to fight," she said. "I know," he replied. The ruins offered high ground. They climbed broken stairs and took cover behind ancient stone walls. As the hunters burst from the jungle, she let out a deep call, a war cry that echoed through the trees. The first two fell to her claws. The third met Derek's blade. He stabbed wild but strong. His hands were steady now, no shaking, no waiting, only survival. The fourth beast slammed him to the ground, but she was there, tearing it off with a scream. They fought like one body. Her fury, his will, her strength, his courage. Together they held the ground. The last hunter crawled away, dragging a shattered leg. She let it go. "Let it warn the others," she said. Derek collapsed beside her. Blood covered his arms. Not all of it his. She was breathing heavy, kneeling against a pillar. "We're alive," he said. "For now," she answered. The ruins were quiet again. Only wind moved between the stones. She sat with her back to the wall and looked up at the sky. My kind built this, before they were hunted, before they were broken. Now it's all ruins. It's not over, Derek said. You're still standing. That means your story still matters. She looked at him, her golden eyes steady. And you've seen what others refuse to. You've chosen truth. That makes you different. I'm not leaving you, he said. I know, she replied. They sat together in silence, two warriors from different worlds. The jungle still waited. The stars still watched. But something had changed. The war hadn't ended, but the fear had. Rain started to fall across the ruins. It was slow and soft, washing blood into the cracked stone. Derek sat beside her, silent, both of them staring into the mist. The battle had passed, but the feeling remained in their bones. She tied new wraps around her wounds using cloth from her belt. Derek offered his jacket, tearing strips from the sleeves to bind her arm. She let him. There were no more orders between them. Only survival, earned and shared. This place isn't safe anymore, she said. The jungle has shifted. The balance is broken. The hunters know we resist now. They will come harder next time. Then we prepare, Derek answered. We use the ruins. We make them regret it. She looked at him, brow raised. You speak like you're staying. Even now, even after what you've seen. I am, he said without pause. This war took everything from me, but it gave me truth. It gave me a reason to fight. And someone worth fighting beside. She stood and stepped to the edge of the ruins. Her golden eyes scanned the forest. Then we fight together. You wear the scars now, you've earned them. The rain grew heavier. It dripped through cracks above and pooled at their feet. Somewhere in the jungle, a distant horn echoed, a sound of warning or a call to arms. She didn't flinch. She listened. We can train here, she said. Set traps, call back the old beasts. Wake the forest to fight with us again. This place remembers. We just need to remind it. Derek walked to her side. We'll need more than blades. We'll need others who believe. Others who've seen. What I've seen, she nodded. Not many will come. But the few who do will matter, like you. Like the first one who gave me food through iron bars. Like those who choose truth over comfort. For the next days, they worked. Rebuilt walls, carved lookout points, dug traps and marked trails. She taught him signs, signals, and the old war songs of her people. He learned fast. Faster than she expected. He taught her how to modify human gear, how to reroute power cells and make enemy tech work for them. They used broken drones as scouts. They made fireless light from salvaged cores. He shared what he knew, and she respected it. They hunted together. Slept side by side near the carved pillars. They moved like one. Fought like one. Trusted like one. The jungle didn't reject them. It watched, waited, and slowly accepted. Others began to appear. A scarred beastkin with one eye. A young human deserter carrying only a data chip and a will to survive. A pair of twin trackers who had once served the Empire but now hunted its spies. They came without banners. Only purpose. She welcomed them without words. Derek showed them. The way through the forest, through the traps, to the ruins. Together they formed something new, not an army, not rebels, but something stronger. Something real. One night, under the blood moon, she painted a mark on Derek's chest. Not with mud, not with paste, but with her own blood. A symbol of her clan. A vow. You are not prey anymore, she said. He looked at her, chest rising steady. And you are not alone. Above them, the forest breathed. Below them, the hunters watched, but now the ruin stood ready. And in its heart stood a human and a beastwoman, no longer strangers, no longer afraid. The war had changed them both. But they were not broken. They were beginning.